Good morning, grinders. Welcome to RotoGrinders Today. I'm Jordan Cooper, aka BlenderHD, BlenderHD. If you're gonna follow me on Twitter, and it's Tuesday, November 21st. We'll be taking a look at some NBA stuff today, NBA props, some pick'em stuff, maybe some DFS stuff. It's hard to tell this early. You never know who's in, who's out. So always check out Crunch Time and Grinders Live later today on the channel. Hit that thumbs up button. Give me those thumbs early in the morning. Hit the subscribe button. Hit the notification bell to always know when we go live. Join with me, NBA prop extraordinaire, man on the pick'em streets. It's Will Priester. It's a pretty slow Tuesday. I mean, typically I'd have some NHL to play, but apparently they decided to schedule no games for today and 14 games tomorrow.
Yep.
Well, yesterday in NHL. And today in NBA, we have what? Is there any difference, Will? Let's start it out this way. The in-season tournament stuff, because that's what they're playing today.
Mm-hmm.
Have you noticed, because I haven't been paying that much attention to NBA, because I've been not playing DFS for it. I've been betting props occasionally, focusing on other things. Do the teams play differently in these like in-season tournament games than they do during like the normal regular season games?
So to me, it is going to be hard to quantify because it's the first season, and I think if we're going to do it accurately, like we're literally going to have to extract those games and then determine, okay, have they been close? Have they not been close? What I will say is in the prop shop, we've been attacking a lot of props from those games in the second half, and it feels like every one of those games is kind of going over. Now, I would need to go back and try to extract and I don't want to say build a query, but because that's not what I mean, but actualize the data of have these games actually been tied on the play-in games. On the surface, it seems like the totals have been higher. The games have been more competitive. That's what it seems like in most games. But obviously, I haven't done actual real analysis on that, which, I mean, isn't hard. I could just, pull the data.
Right, but there's also not that much of a sample size on these things.
Correct.
Yet.
That's the problem. Yeah.
My concern is not necessarily on like game totals, overs and unders. Is just like, are they running their regular rotations? Are they playing like it's a normal game? Are they more apt to do things differently?
Yeah. Well, the other thing too, which Blender, I know, which is why I think for those of you that haven't noticed, we've seen Blender decide that, hey, you know what? NHL might be more profitable and less stressful for me than NBA.
Way more profitable. Way more profitable.
Yeah. Here's the thing. If guys are out, that changes everything. And we've seen that right out of the gate. I mean, Bradley Beal's barely played. Booker's in, he's out. Draymond's been suspended. Just those things impact the game as well when guys are in or out. We've seen that. So it's going to be hard to quantify. I think the rotations, to me, from watching the games, and this is just watching, obviously I could just, and let me say this too. Sorry, I feel like I'm hogging the mic here. Folks, if you want to know what's going on from a data perspective, just go to Court IQ, pull up the game flow, and you can literally see the rotations. You can see when guys enter in and out. It might be a little bit more tedious if you're trying to, go game by game, but you can at least see it. My point is, I think the rotations have been normal outside of, someone just being out for injury or sickness or something like that.
Well, the first thing that I look at when looking at props, especially early, and 11 in the morning is early for NBA, is see who's on the injury report, questionable wise, and then like we have LeBron, we got Brogdon, we got LeVert, we got Nembhard. I don't know how much Nembhard matters that much. Only 18 minutes projected. If you're going to use our projections, I think I've been hawking using our statistical level projections that we have for most sports. So we here have the NBA premium projections that you could download. You could look, you could eyeball, you could use the extension for Prize Picks and Underdog. You could use our projections even if you're not playing DFS. The issue is that our projections always make sure that we treat questionable players on the injury report as in until shown otherwise.
Correct.
So just because LeBron is questionable, maybe it's more likely he doesn't play. I'm not saying that he will or will not today. I'm just saying as an example that you may look at Lakers props and go, well, I'm taking all these unders because they seem way off. And it's only because you're looking at projections as if LeBron is playing. And maybe the market is just assuming he's not playing, and that's why all these numbers look so high to you, because once you take LeBron's usage in, all these guys shouldn't be that high. So the first things that I do is I look at lineup HQ and I look, okay, who are the few guys that are on this slate on the day's games? The question comes in, Will, this early at 11 in the morning, are you more or less likely to just ignore those games when it comes to props, or more likely to go with what's here? Because especially as someone that I'm not paying that close attention to what's going on in NBA, that I don't want to get stuck in a situation where I'm taking, Trailblazers props thinking that Brogdon's going to be in, and then he gets ruled out, at 4:30 or something. And now I'm sitting there with all these unders that should have been overs. Like, how do you do that from a time perspective? I understand that. And we have teams that there's no one on the injury report, and then 3 hours from now, we'll see that they add 3 people that are questionable. and it ends up that by 7 o'clock, 2 guys aren't playing. And I wouldn't have even known that at 11 in the morning. Are you the type of person that, like, even though the numbers have less value because closer to game time, are you more likely to start putting in your prize picks cards, your underdog slips, your props and stuff on the sports books late when you have more information, or you're more willing to get in early before, numbers and prices move? And if you get them now, you get so much more value.
So here's the thing, Blender. Believe it or not, in NBA, which is totally different than MLB, and it's going to be totally different than NFL. I think there's 2 times you put in for NBA, Blender. Early in the morning, about 30 minutes before lock. And let me tell you why I'm saying it this way. So early in the morning, right, you're going to get some nice odds. You're going to get the projection, and sometimes, or oftentimes, let me say that, oftentimes the pick'em sites aren't spot on with the sports books, not spot on, right? So for instance, you might get, I'm just throwing this out there because it's up on my screen right now on a site that I use. So like, for instance, right now we've got OG Anunoby at 16.5 points and assists as an example. Early in the morning, OG may be at 14 points assists or 13. I'm just using that as an example, right? So you want to get in on that in the morning, because at the moment they're not completely synced up with the sports books. Okay, now that's one option. And then our projections are out. You can use that, compare it with our projections, and make some decisions. Right before lock, Blender, usually about 30 minutes, we'll start seeing the sports books settle in. Right. What I mean by that is this: the sites, the pick'em sites, aren't going to have up projections that are spot on if you're getting something at minus 160, minus 180, minus 154. Like, you're not going to see a lot of that, or you won't see that up long. So what will happen, Blender, is as things start to normalize closer to lock, you can catch them slipping with some of those minus 160 lines. And so when you go in and look, you say, okay, well, our projections have it. Let's say they've got, especially for unders, let me say that. So, like, I'm going to use one of my favorites from this season. And it's not that it's going to hit every time, Blender, but like Jason Tatum at 9.5 rebounds. Typically, he's going to settle in at under 9.5 at around minus 150, minus 160, minus 145. up in that area. Now, last night, it shifted on you because, of course, Derek White got ruled out. Al Horford didn't play. And so it shifted again. But my point is, when you catch them right before lock, you'll see those numbers. And then you go in, compare it with our projections very quickly. If you're smart enough, and I'm not saying that people are stupid, I'm saying if you're smart enough to use our overlay, our Chrome extension, you can see the projections right on the screen. You look at that, you compare those two, and then you make a decision. So for me, those are my 2 times, Blender. Early in the morning, right, about 30 minutes, let's say 45, 30 minutes before lock, you'll start catching them, slipping just a little bit. And I think those are the most advantageous times. One other thing I want to mention, and this is more specific to yesterday, our projections team is the projections team for a reason. And what you're doing, especially in NBA, just trust the guys that are creating the sausage, right, Blender? Trust the guys that are doing all this stuff behind the scenes. Yesterday, if you looked at the Washington Wizards, the projections were through the roof. Prize Picks had these guys way down. Our projections said, no. We need to take over on fantasy points. We need to take over on points. We need to take over on everything. And guess what? If you got in your feelings and said, oh, Washington stinks, you missed out. Our projections were spot on. I mean, these guys were just incredible. Yeah, they lost.
Yesterday, I thought the same thing. I'm like, oh, how much more money am I going to lose on Jordan Poole overs? Right?
Yeah.
I took Poole. I had Poole's overs. I had Kuzma's overs, and I'm like, okay, here, and then they blew it out of the water, so it didn't even matter.
Yeah, and that's the reason why. Once again, you're playing day to day, and then you're making those decisions based on what we have available to us. Anytime there's that big of a differential, and I think I mentioned that because T. Jackson obviously was pointing it out earlier in the day. Shout out to T. Jackson for pointing that out to the shop earlier in the day. But like I told him, I said that's probably some of the biggest differentials we're going to see on players all year in the NBA. We won't see that very often where we're getting, 6-7 point differentials. And Blender, it was like that all day. It's not like it happened early in the morning, but it was like that all day. You had all day to get those in. And so shout out to our projections team. This is why you follow that process. And I know sometimes I think people in the shop probably think I just don't use projections, don't use the books. I use everything. Like I use it all to help me make decisions. And this is one of those times where it paid off.
And you can see here with the Prize Pick screen that this is the Chrome extension. If you're a RotoGrinders premium member, click on that link in the description, get $10 off your first month. All of our statistical projections, if they're available for a sport, will get overlaid for Prize Picks and Underdog. So even college football.
My cat's in the chat. Hey, my cat. Sorry, brother, I didn't see you there. Good morning.
But even college football, NFL, when we have projections, they'll show it. You could obviously download. We have the full chart that you could download whenever they're updated. Another thing, we have the Fantasy Pick'em tool, which, if you don't want to use the Chrome extension overlay, it'll kind of show you the win percentages of what we currently have. So if you could just go through and go, which ones do I want? Another one, if you're on the sports books, the prop model is another way. The top 20 edges based on the current RotoGrinders projections. Always take a look at the timestamp just to make sure. So you could go through and you go, okay, I want to take a couple of props today. Makes it easy for you that you don't necessarily have to, download projections, import them into Excel, do anything fancy, eyeball back and forth, and you're taking 3 hours. A lot of times, you just I could go to the prop model and go, okay, what teams am I not concerned about, right? Maybe I avoid the Lakers. Maybe I avoid the Blazers with the few tags on it. But it's like, It seems like Cleveland's fine, right? So I look on the prop shop. I look on the prop model. Evan Mobley, over 24.5 points and rebounds on FanDuel. We have it as an 18% edge. So just go and do it. Literally go and do it. Literally. I put my money where my mouth is. I'm going to literally go and do it.
Yeah.
I'm going to log in. Will these sport on the desktop sites with how they have to do like the location checking, it's awful.
Yeah.
I feel like I wish there was like a button that you could just keep me logged in until I tell you otherwise, please.
And here's the thing too, Blender. It's like they've got this embed in your computer that knows that you're in the right
Yeah, I have
location,
that.
and they still, I know, that's what I'm saying, they still do it anyway. It's terrible.
Right, and I love the search function on where okay, this is not the sport. Give me the sports book. Right, I logged into the fantasy side, so now I have to log into the regular side. The sports
Yes, you
book
do.
side. What a pain in the ass. But I like the search function on FanDuel because you don't have to find the game. You could just put in the player.
Yeah.
Right. Right, and of course, I have to reload it again because it can't verify my location. On the phone, it's fine because of location services on the the GPS type of thing.
Yeah.
So I'll just go to Evan Mobley.
Whenever I go to
Evan Mobley
Tennessee,
here.
by the way, like I take my computer with me and Blender. The first time I went, I realized quickly, no need for me to even be on this computer. Just stay on my phone. Whatever I want to just stay on my phone because getting into it from the computer, such a pain. Such a pain.
We can see here that FanDuel, this line has moved since the prop model has posted this. So the number for points and rebounds is now at 25.5. That's probably still fine. But we can go down to like Grayson Allen. Like Grayson Allen. Let's type that in. Grayson Allen. Right. Oh, are we avoiding guys like Grayson Allen? Are we avoiding that game? Because of Brogdon?
I don't avoid if the projections. Well, Grayson plays for Phoenix anyway, so he's good.
Would Brogdon affect the defense or anything like that?
I'm not worried about that. Nope.
You're not worried about. Okay, so looking at Grayson Allen over 3.5 rebounds. Let's see if it's up over 3.5 rebounds. So here we go. Rebounds at minus 106. Right.
Okay.
And then you go. $30. Done.
Yeah.
Well, you're looking at my process.
Yeah. 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 And look, I've got one extra site. We've got a brilliant mind in the prop shop. His name is Zolan. Zolan has a tool that I also use. Thank you, Zolan. Shout out for those of you that are in the prop shop. If you're using Zolan stuff, just click the Buy Me Coffee tab. Buy him some coffee. He's created something that I think is amazing, and it's definitely been helping us out for over a year now, especially for NBA. It's a really good tool. So shout out to Zolan, man. Appreciate you, brother. I don't think he's listening, but I don't care. Really great tool also that we use in the prop shop. But yeah, Blender, I think we're pretty similar. Like, I'll kind of go through and I've been telling people, hey, make sure you check out the pick'em sheet, because especially for fantasy points, but I think I mentioned that last week, especially for fantasy points. I mean, it's the quick hitters. You just look and say, okay, yeah, and you're done, And if you miss it too late, a lot of times they've already bumped some. So it's not like it's bumped a lot, but like yesterday, I did miss Daniel Gafford. He came in, I think, at 22.5, and I ended up getting him at 23. Still blew it through the water because our projections on Washington were ridiculous. But my point is, if you can get it right when the sheet comes out, it's usually the most advantageous. The first update, I think, is usually around 10 in the morning, if I'm not mistaken, somewhere around there.
Right, but here I just went through and just like, okay, I'm going to take Booker's over 4.5 rebounds, Nurkic over 3.5 assists, Eric Gordon over 2.5 assists. What is that? Is that number up here? I mean, this is just the normal sports books. I mean, like,
God bless you, man. You actually have it.
Right. And then, so we're looking for assists here, over assists, minus 104, $30, another $30 on that. Right. I mean, I could seriously just the Keontae George assist under 6.5. Right. I take a look at 60% win percentage. So I'll just type in, I mean, I just literally Keontae George. As long as it's not on a team that I'm like worried about or anything like that. Those are the things I look at later. When you mention, what do you do early? What do you do late? The problem is a lot of times, even the teams that don't have crap on the injury report end up screwing around later in the day.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that is good for those of you that don't know. The injury report, I think, usually comes out at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard
1:30.
Time. 1:30.
Typically
Yeah. Thank you.
1:30.
Thank you. Yeah. So that's if you kind of know those checkpoints, you can at least prepare a little bit. For me, Blender, in terms of like injury stuff, I think I feel like there's always enough for you to not have to worry about fidgeting with the injury stuff, right? Like there's
Right.
always way more than that. And then if the injury stuff settles in later and you want to make some decisions, you can do that. But I don't feel like I have to bore myself with Lakers props, knowing that there are 50 other things I could be doing
Right.
that doesn't have anything to do with that.
Right. So what I just did right now on FanDuel is any edge that I saw here that was over, 10% plus. Take it. Struss points, George assists, but I didn't touch the Anthony Davis one because of LeBron's status. Right. This one that now you start getting, it'll show you which book it has the best number at. I mean, so you could, I don't have to necessarily look between the books, but I mean, I will also, outside of this, download the projections and import them into Excel, and I can calculate the edge for all of these things and find points plus rebounds on here and fantasy points on there and whatever. And that's why, like, going to Prize Picks here, like you could eyeball this stuff. Understand that most statistics in NBA are the mean is skewed positively, which means, remember, and we do DFS projections at RotoGrinders, which means we care about the means. We care about the averages. We care about when someone scores 70 fantasy points because that means we can make more money in fantasy. But if you have the over 23.5 fantasy points and someone scores 70 fantasy points, you don't make any extra money on Prize Picks. It doesn't matter. It's a yes/no type of thing. So we care about medians. Now you can convert some of the things. There are tools and there are ways to convert using a Poisson distribution to convert a mean to a median. But just realize that in NBA, it is not event driven, much more normally distributed, which means that the means and medians are going to be fairly close to one another for most stats, but it's still going to skew. The mean is going to skew a little bit more positive, which means that anytime you take an over or a more than, you need a lot more cushion further up. On unders, on lower thens, you don't need much of a cushion. Like if someone is like just under the number, like that's good, especially on Prize Picks where you need like to put a 5 flex together, you need like minus 122, right? You need like 55% win rate.
Yeah.
Like anything that you see, like if you just blindly looked at our projections and took anything that had any cushion on the under, that would work on Prize Picks and Underdog. Obviously, if you're on the regular sportsbook, the prices will change. You may have plus 135. You may have minus 150. Like you may have all that type of stuff. Prize Picks and Underdog, you don't. So Will, I'm just going to do that. Like I'm literally. I mean, I'm looking at. We don't have no problem with Toronto. Is there any issues with their rotation? Or is there no injuries? No nothing.
I mean, I think we're good there. Like OG Anunoby had been out a little while, but he's back now. So we're
taking this Schroeder. I've been taking. It seems like the past 2 weeks I've been taking Schroeder's overs. This is the first time where I'm looking at our fantasy score projection, 29.5 on Prize Picks. Our projection is 27.79. I mean,
right. And let's talk about that too, Blender. And see, this is why I will say if you understand what the projections team is doing, like it'll help you. So I know why. So for those that don't know, I've been on the projections team before, like not like a few years ago when Court IQ first came out. Not Court IQ, but well, I was writing an article for Court IQ, but I've been on the projections team. My point is, here's why Dennis Schroeder is going to have a tick down in a projection today. The pace of that game is going to be slower than usual, right? And so that's already accounted for in the projection because Orlando played at a much slower pace than some other teams in general. And so what pace means is, and for those of you that just want to know, that means it's going to be less possessions in the game. And so if the Toronto Raptors, Blender, are going to have 4 to 5 less possessions, then now that means Dennis Schroeder has 4 to 5 less opportunities for fantasy points, which is going to affect his output. So he's a little bit lower today. And so when you know that, and you kind of know some of the data points behind what's happening, then you understand why. Okay, so and let me say this. Sorry, I feel like I'm hogging the mic so much today. There's this running joke in the prop shop about last five, like guys that just kind of look at last five, and I don't think anybody actually does that like in general in the prop shop, but it's just kind of a funny joke. But some people do. They look at last five and go, 29 and a half. He's scored 35 fantasy points the last 5 games. That's crazy. I'm just going to take the over. Well, you got to remember the projections are accounting for the possessions that this team is not going to get tonight that they've had in these other games. So just wanted to point that out just to kind of clear up some things so people understand, how the sausage is made as well.
Right. I'm going through here. I see Clint Capella under 10.5 rebounds. Halliburton under 12 assists. I primarily look for unders personally.
Yeah.
Right?
I've been on the unders.
People like betting over, so sometimes they put more cushion into that than they should. So I'm looking primarily for unders, and you can just go through PRA, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, all the Schroeder one is actually not.
But so what's
under.
crazy is the only one that Schroeder looks like he has an over for is PRA, but everything else I think is an under.
Well, I mean, it wouldn't be enough to take the over, but it wouldn't be enough. I can't take the under there.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, it seems like Evan Mobley and Max Strus. Mobley over, Strus unders.
Okay.
I'm gonna look for the best Mobley, like the best Mobley one, because I can take any of them. When it comes to, would you prefer the fantasy points when it comes to unders? Like my attitude, it's good. I don't know if this is sound logic, that the counting stats, like there are ways, especially with FanDuel scoring, there are ways to get bailed out in fantasy points that you can't get bailed out in counting stats. That if there's multiple overs that I could take, including fantasy points, and I'm only going to choose one, I prefer the fantasy points or PRA, where you can get bailed out by an outside version. But when it comes to unders, I tend to want to use I'll do the under assists. I'll do the under rebounds or points rather than I don't necessarily think it matters that much. But it seems like you nodding your head that you agree with me.
No. Blender, we feel like that until it's that one night where the guy scores 5 points, right? And 8 assists and 7, and he's supposed to go under 40 fantasy points, and he has 5 blocks. And you're sitting there going, why didn't I just take the under points? Why didn't I just take the under? So I'm with you. Inversely, it can happen both ways, but typically I think on fantasy points for unders, I'd rather avoid unless a guy is just absolutely bad, because those blocks and steals, a guy lucks into 3 blocks or steals, and it's going to crush you. That's 9 points that you otherwise just kind of could not have accounted for. Inversely, Blender, when I want over sometimes, especially for a guy like Mobley or Jaren Jackson, guys that have the ability to pick up a fair amount of defensive stats, blocks and steals, I'm always going fantasy because that's my extra out. If for whatever reason they just can't score that night, Mobley scores 12 points, but he gets 3 blocks, 2 steals. That's another 15. That's 27. Plus his rebounds, plus 2 or 3 assists. Now I've given myself an increased ability for him to hit the over.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah, so I'm gonna take Mobley's over 37 fantasy score.
Yeah.
And then I'm gonna take Max Strus's under PRA.
Yeah. Yep. And I mean that's a pretty nice discount. I mean, we're getting about 2.25, almost 2.23. Yeah, off
on the under.
Yeah, that's really good.
Right. And also it's also somewhat correlated to Mobley's fantasy points. Because if Mobley's scoring and getting those points, Strus isn't.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
So I'm looking at this. So I got Schroeder's less than 29.5 fantasy score, Capella's less than 10.5 rebounds. Halliburton less than 12 assists. Mobley's over 37 fantasy score. Strus less than 13.5 points, rebounds, assists. And look how I did it. I used our projections and the overlay and just $30. That's typically my kind of unit size, standard one. So there you go. $30 in. Right, Will? Money where my mouth is. I'm dude, this is exactly what I'm doing off the show. Like that's why when I saw the prop model, I'm like, I already put one bet in on FanDuel. Why don't I just do the other ones that are here also?
Yeah.
So I'm here. Why not?
Yeah. And for
but
me,
some people will look at me and go, dude, you're barely paying attention to basketball. You just put in like $150, $200 worth of bets, and just based on numbers on a spreadsheet, I go, yeah, the numbers on the spreadsheet know more about basketball than I do. So I'm just going to use the numbers on the spreadsheet.
Yeah, and Blender, look, we've got, especially for NBA, our process is probably about identical, just about. Like I said, I am using Zolan site because and let me tell you why I use Zolan site as well, Blender. It's basically going to give me all the odds for all the props that are up. So I can just go and look at it really quickly and say, oh, this is minus 160, this is minus 142, this is plus 180, whatever. And it's just an extra, let me just see where the books are at. Yeah.
Right. I have tools like that also. I will download all these projections and then be able to see an odds screen where all the books that I have access to, where's the best number, exactly where the number's moving to, kind of like a little financial screen. So if you want to take it seriously and if you're gonna bang in 100 bets today, obviously that efficiency matters to you. But if you're just the layperson that wants to, put in 5-10 props or something, like our props and pick 'em package, if you're not playing DFS, you could just, I think we're running a special. I think it's $9.99 for the first month. I think
for the first
I'm
month.
not sure.
Lowest it's been.
Right. So try that out, and you won't be able to download the projections, but you'll get the prop model, you'll get the expert picks, you'll get the fantasy pick 'em. Right. I mean, you can take a look right here on the fantasy pick. I mean, look.
Yeah.
I mean, I could literally go, okay, this was updated. Okay, this was updated a while ago. So I don't know. I mean, some of them look the same as what they are. So like I could go down and go, okay, let's make a prize picks card. Okay. Booker did they take the Suns down more than 4.5 rebounds? Hold on. I think they took some of this stuff down. Because I didn't see. I said Booker.
And this one was actually last updated at 4:12 a.m., which is very interesting.
Right. So Booker over 4.5 rebounds. I'm just looking at our pick'em tool. Right. Where to go? Right. So top of the win percentage. Because remember, anything that's over 55%, that's what we're looking at. Okay. Booker, more than 4.5 rebounds. Grayson Allen. I don't want to put them both together because they'll take away rebounds from each other. Mobley, 25.5 points plus rebounds. Okay, so let's look at that.
And that's probably one of his better ones because that's where most of his production comes from.
Right. So there, more 25.5.
And our projection is 30. That's incredible.
Right. I don't like doing the block shots one that's very high variance. Max Strus points, less than 15.5. Okay, let's take that. Right, especially we got Mobley here. That's somewhat correlated. Strus points under. Okay. Then we go to the next one. Obi Toppin. Okay. Do we know? We don't know if Levert is. Do we have problems with the?
That won't matter. Toppin plays for Indiana.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. I knew we had a pacer in there. I don't think Nembhard.
Nembhard. Yeah. Gotcha.
But I don't think that matters for Obi Toppin.
No, because Obi's not
going to change anything. I mean, the backup point guard. I mean, I don't think that matters.
Yeah.
PRA 16.5 less. So let's go to Toppin. Toppin, PRA 16.5. You can see it come up here, 13.5. So there you go. Less. And then the next one on the list. I don't like taking the threes. Like block shots and threes are going to be very high variance. Eric Gordon assists. more.
Let me say this, Blender. The place, if you want to, and this is something I've just learned over time. I don't hate the 3-pointers. The place to take them, though, is actually Hot Streak. Hot Streak gives you a robust amount, and I took those on Hot Streak yesterday. I didn't miss one, not one. But that's because some of theirs, they're getting some of the ones that Prize Picks isn't going to give you. So just wanted to put that out. But I understand, like, threes, blocks, steals, turnovers, way more variance.
Right. We also have Utah, Clarkson under 22.5 points.
Hey,
Clarkson.
I'm assuming our projection on him is going to be around 20. I haven't looked at that one today. That's going to be my assumption. I could be wrong.
Clarkson. Where's Clarkson? Yeah, 19.82.
Yeah, so around 20. Yep.
Right. So there you go. And here's 5. So I like doing the 5s or the 6s.
Mm-hmm.
And there I basically picked 5 from towards the top. Tried to avoid. I mean, we could even take out if we don't even want to look at the Suns, right? Because we don't know what's happening with the Lakers, if that matters defensively. We could just keep on going. Keontae George under 10.5 rebounds and assists. Rebounds and assists, 10.5. So let's look at Keontae George, rebounds and assists. 10.5. 10.5. Right, 9.1. Right, so I could take out this Booker one, right? Because you don't know what does LeBron matter for the. I mean, it matters enough. Maybe some of the rebound stats change a little bit. So even if you didn't want to, you say I'm just going to avoid that game completely. Well, I just went to the Pick'em tool, and I just took the best 5 that I could find that I'm willing to take on towards the top.
Yeah,
and there you go, $30. Put it in. Done.
That's it.
That's why it's kind of weird. That's why it's hard for me to do shows like this, because it's like, well, why do you like Obi Toppin's under? I don't because the projections say so.
Yeah, and look, and here's the thing too, Blender. If they want the explanation, I actually do watch the NBA. Basketball is my favorite sport. I coach basketball as well. So I typically know the reason the projections are one way or another, because you got to
you know that the minutes are down, some matchup difference, the total is low. I mean,
they're accounting for all of that into the projection. So if you need to know that stuff, like we can absolutely explain it. But just understand, like, they are those things, those data points are accounted into the projection. I think our best option of that today, of course, is the Dennis Schroeder one, where even you, Blender, said, well, man, I've been taking Dennis Schroeder overs, feels like every day. And today they're saying I need to take under. Well, they're playing Orlando. The pace is slower, a little bit better defensive team.
And also OG being back obviously changes things.
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. It's like
OG was out and Scotty Barnes was injured somewhat or whatever. Like, all these Schroeder numbers were all too low, and I just kept on hammering them.
Yeah. And that's what goes into the projection, and that's what makes this easier than I think it looks sometimes. Like, I can't stress enough, Blender, and I want to go back to like my first early years of DFS. If you want to get better, you trust people that are smarter than you until you fully understand and can do it on your own. Like DFS props, whatever. This isn't an industry where you have to do it on your own. Like, this is why RotoGrinders, from the time they've started to now, has constantly created tools and resources, because they want to try to make it as easy as possible for you to be successful. This is why they have people come on and try to talk through the slate. People like Blender that have the theory of DFS. Like, that's what this stuff is for, to help you get better, and then and also understand. This is why we had Roto Academy. Like, I can't stress enough how much Roto Academy I took in early so that I could understand DFS and win, right? Like, you need to have some understanding, but throughout that process, You trust the tools and resources and people that are smarter than you until you can get there. That's what this is all about.
Will, look at what I'm doing with NHL. Tim got me into NHL. I know next to nothing about NHL. Haven't watched hockey in 25 years or whatever. And I just took the same concepts that I use in any other sport for DFS and go, how does that apply to NHL? So I need to know the levers. How do projections work in NHL? How does leverage work in NHL? How does correlation work in NHL? And then I'm starting to build these lineups using the numbers. I may not know who some of these players are. I don't necessarily know the lines of the Columbus Blue Jackets, but I do know that because a goal typically has one, if not two assists, that you, in GPP especially, you want to play people from the same line, because if one scores a goal, it's more likely that one of the other people get an assist. And the thing is that, well, do you have to learn all the lines? It's like, it's literally in lineup HQ. Like I could just, it's like the stacks in MLB. Yeah. So like it'll automatic, as long as I click the lines and go, just make sure to get, I want 3 guys from the same line. Done. It'll do it automatically for you. Like I don't have to worry about this guy plays on this line. That, like, no, it literally does it for me. I don't even need to know that. And then a lot of times I'm pairing, I want a 4th guy, a defenseman, because he's also I want 4 guys from the same line. And then you know what I do, Will? I just trust the goddamn projections. All I'm doing is, here's the projections. Let me piece together. I want 4 guys from one team, 3 guys from this team. I want a goalkeeper, 1 off, whatever the hell. I build 300 lineups. I focus typically more on the teams that have the higher ceilings, teams that have the higher implied team totals. I don't try to overthink it. I'm playing smaller field contests, so I don't need the nuts. I'm playing a 100-man contest. I'm playing a 200-man contest. Like, dude, just give me 2 teams that are score a bunch of goals and give me the best line combinations of them. And then the projections will lead me that way. And then I sort by ownership and go, well, this lineup has a projection of 106 for a 85% ownership. Well, this lineup below it is a lineup that's 104 projection, but only has 52% ownership. So I'm like, I'll sacrifice 1 point for for much less ownership. Give me that line.
You're basically sacrificing for the win. You want the win, so not the
But I don't look at that and go, well, I can't play this guy because of some team. I don't know. All I'm going is that, dude, our projections in NHL are awesome. I've been betting the props on it. So I'm just going to trust the numbers that are in that. I'm just going to trust their numbers. Just put it in.
This, Blender. Last thing. Well, not last thing, because, obviously if you have something
we're getting out of here. Kind of last thing. There's not much more to talk about.
But my friends have told me, Will, you've been good at MLB DFS. Trust me, you'll be great at NHL. It's practically the same. So here's why I'm saying that. In MLB, I'm just doing a comparative analysis. We'll get out of here. In MLB, depending on how you think about it, whatever, your primary spot is the pitcher, because you want to make sure you get the points, right? That's kind of like your quarterback, if you will. Whatever. But the goalie is like the pitcher. And then everybody else is like the stats. And if you think about it like that, you already know how to play NHL DFS. Now you just got to figure out how to apply what we're giving you in lineup HQ to make the lineups. It really is about identical in like concept. I'm saying just on the surface. In concept, it's about the same. And shame on me for not playing more NHL, Blender, and well more NHL DFS. Let me say that, because in the props and pick'em streets, I'm always clicking buttons. But I'm happy.
You'll get upset though. Like, we'll have nights like last night where 15 minutes before game time, 2 teams decide to change their lines, and you've already built your line. Like, that doesn't happen that often.
Nope, not often.
But it's like, next thing you know, it's like, oh, this guy, like, I've Florida's one line with a different guy, and then it's like, nope, he's moving to the second line. It's like, well, now I got to change everything. I got a guy on a different line that's not even going to play on the power play.
But guess what, Blender? That happens every night in NBA. So who cares?
Yeah, but the reason I'm playing NHL is so I don't have to do that.
I know.
You know how often in NHL I have my lineups done at like 4:30 in the afternoon? And
Almost every day.
I'm done.
Almost every day. Yeah.
Right, I'm done.
Yeah.
And then I'll go into our Discord, which is a great NHL channel for news. And a lot of times the news is like, this third line guy is now playing on the fourth line. It's like, I haven't played any of these people anyway, right? Or goal. Oh, which of the two goalkeepers are going to be in? So it's like, is Allmark in? Is Swayman in? It's like, if I have one, it's the same price as the other guy. So I'll just swap them out. But it's kind of rare where a team comes out and says, you know what? We're just going to shift up all of our lines. And if it was a team that had a decent team total, I have to go, oh my God, I need to rework. I don't play that many lineups. So I played 6 lineups yesterday. So it's like, it wasn't that big of a deal, but it's always a pain in the ass. I'm not expecting an NHL to have to do that 15 minutes before the slate. In NBA, like, if you're not expecting that, you're not a winning player, because
that sure
is NBA DFS.
Yeah, for sure, my brother, for sure.
So Will, you'll have content out this week. NBA stuff. You got we got 2 slates this for NFL. You got Thanksgiving as well as the week 12 slate. So what's on store this week for you content wise?
Yeah, so I'll be doing a lot of my content is going to be at the end of the week this week. Of course, I'll be on the Blitz show. I'll be on the Showdown show for Sunday. Blender, TJ crushed it this Sunday yet again. Hopefully people are watching the Showdown show and understanding what we're doing. Super happy for him. I'll be doing all my other content for Stat Hero and Owner's Box. I'll have that out on Friday.
Well, check them out. Check out the Prop Shop Discord, rotogrinders.com/Discord. Join. It's free. You could just attach your RotoGrinders account, which is a free account. You get in there. You could join my Blenders Game Theory channel. If you ever want to talk to me, that's the best place to go to ask any questions or chat or anything you want. And our NHL channel. Tomorrow we have a 14-game slate in NHL, and I'll be playing. I'll be playing it. I'll be playing. I think I'm going to play like 9 lineups or something.
I might legit hop in that one. This feels like one for me to just say, hey, just treat this thing like MLB. Hop in there. I'm pretty excited about that one.
No, I'm loving the NHL because I play soccer, so the sweat is very similar to soccer.
Yeah,
like event-based goals and everything. Yeah. So it's like that's why NHL. It's like, okay, picture soccer. How do you play soccer DFS? And then go overlay MLB to it. So it's like basically soccer with more correlation. So I'm like, okay, this is easy. Soccer is what I started with. So like, dude, I've been playing EPL and UCL for almost 9 years, 8 years, over 8 years. Yeah. So, NHL is like that. Okay, so let me.
Yeah, that's how I felt about when they had the big LOL and LOL slates and CS:GO. Like the prize pools aren't as big anymore, so it's kind of almost not worth my time. But like when esports was a similar thing. Like if you found the teams that were going to run away with it, just like you find an MLB team that hits all the home runs or a hockey team that hits all the goals, it was so fun, man. I wish they would have really kept up the esports offerings as the seasons progress, but they just, I guess it's just not as popular. But that's okay.
Yeah, but we got stuff for that also here at RotoGrinders. Become a premium member. Click on that link in the description. Get $10 off your first month. We'll be back tomorrow. We'll be taking a look at some Thanksgiving NFL stuff. Maybe some NHL. Maybe, I don't know. We got Alex Santi on tomorrow. We'll be talking about a smorgasbord worth of stuff tomorrow. Hit that like button on your way out the door. Give me those thumbs. We got Grinders Live and Crunch Time later today for NBA, plus all the NFL content this week for both slates, Thanksgiving and Week 12. So I'll see you tomorrow because I'm always here. 11 o'clock in the morning on weekdays. Not on Thursday and Friday, though, because of Thanksgiving. I always want to just point that out for this week. But for most weekdays, 11 o'clock in the morning, talking about all things you're thinking about in daily fantasy, props, and pick'em on RotoGrinders Today.